Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei awaken his sacred gear early and become the Emperor of Domination Part 1. Before we start, please go support Lady Crizzle for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. Reincarnation. Amid the starlight was the gentle glow of the moon, a glimpse of it could serenade anyone like a song and put them at ease. The boy with short brown hair, not older than 7, went out to buy some sweets at a nearby store without telling his parents. Arigato, Jai-chan. Now best be careful, young man. The boy nodded his head and quickly took off to the direction of his house. He was almost there when something caught his eye, a ginger-colored kitten adorning a red ribbon on its tail. Meow, it took off running when it saw him coming closer. Hey, wait. He followed it for a few minutes and ended up losing sight of it. Where did it go? The young boy was about to give up, but then he heard a high-pitched mewl nearby. He was at first against the idea of going after it. I'll just be quick. He felt a knot in his stomach and tightly clutched the bag of sweets. He ran towards the sound and ended up in the park. The bag was unable to stay longer in his grasp when he dropped it almost immediately after seeing the horrid sight in front of him. The cat he was following earlier is bathing in its own blood, its small frame now possesses a hole in it. He fell on the ground with a loud thud. Two figures stood before him with an indifferent look. A man wearing a gray trench coat over a white dress shirt with matching ascot, black pants, shoes, pair of gloves and a black fedora. Beside him is a woman an inch shorter than him with a buxom figure, wearing a maroon trench coat top with a wide collar, a matching miniskirt and black heels. The woman was holding a light spear that pierced the kitten. You were right, Domination, this foolish boy did come to us. The woman that spoke kicked the bloodied kitten away. The brown-haired boy slowly backed away from the two, clearly terrified. What do you want with me? The guy named Domination summoned forth a blue light spear. He managed to stand up and was about to make a run for it when he felt himself weakening and fell once more on the ground. He placed a hand on his abdomen and lifted it. The beautiful intoxicating red coated his hand. Akasan, Atausan, I'm sorry. He coughs out blood and his eyes starts to lose life. Your existence poses a threat to us. Blame God for planting a sacred gear inside your body. The two vanished and left him there to die. He didn't understand a word they said and felt regret, hopelessness and excruciating pain from the blow. If I could be born again, I. He didn't get to finish when the darkness already consumed him. Mr. and Mrs. Hyoudou paced back and forth inside their living room, trying their best to stay positive that their son will be back soon. Maybe we should call the police. Calm down, honey. Maybe he just went out to buy something. But he has been gone for an hour already. Where would a child go at this hour? I know, but we can't make any rash decisions. We can go look or call for help if he's not home after a few more minutes. Mr. Hyoudou embraced his worried wife, both praying that their son is alright. Serzich's-sama, a handsome man who seems to be in his early 20s, has shoulder-length crimson red hair and blue-green eyes. What is it? He didn't take his eyes away from the person he deeply cared for that is lying on the bed that is rather feverish, which happens to be his sister. It was just for a moment, then he turned to the caller and gave his attention. Is there something wrong? The young woman, appearing to be also in her early 20s with long silver hair that is in a long braid on each side with small blue bows at the ends, while the rest is let down, which ends in twin braids, and has gray eyes. She was wearing a blue and white maid outfit with long sleeves and a white maid headband over her head with red lipstick. Since he didn't really thought of the possibility that his sister might be half awake, he let his wife named Grafia Lucifuge tell him. Fallen angels has been spotted in the human world, in Kuo town of Japan. They have been doing unnecessary things. She gave him a grim expression. He got the message and let out a heavy sigh. I understand. The man closed his eyes and his hand found its way to his face and pinched the bridge of his nose. Don't worry, she's going to be okay soon. She went behind him and gave his shoulders a squeeze. He kissed his sister's forehead and stood up from his seat and took the hand of his wife and intertwined their fingers. They left the room and immediately went somewhere. Kuoha. The young Ria's Gremory fluttered her eyes open and slowly sat up and put a hand on her forehead. Maybe I can help Ani-sama, considering it's my fault that he has been neglecting his job. She went to her closet and changed into casual set of clothes and silently tiptoed out of the room. Where are you going, young lady? Oh, Aka-sama, so? I was just going for a fresh air. Really? Are you feeling okay now? She went nearer to her daughter to feel her temperature. Your fever do seem to have went down. Can I go? I'll come back as soon as I can. She gave her mother a reassuring look. Fine, now run along. She embraced Rias and ruffled her hair. The older woman then left. The crimson-haired beauty celebrated in her head and asked some of the maids the whereabouts of his older brother. Seems like he already went to the human world. She held out her right arm into the air and generated a red magic circle with a Gremory crest in the center. Here goes. She was enveloped in a bright crimson light and was instantly teleported into Kuo town. Where am I? Did I messed up? She doesn't know where she is at the moment since it has only been a few times she went here in the human world and haven't explored much. Walking around as she looked at the houses with no light on, but there were still a few. I'll take this opportunity to look around. She couldn't help but feel nervous with no one around and thought that it was a bad idea to go alone. Entering the park, a slight breeze rustles the leaves, making them fall to the solid ground one by one. The air was cool, the beams of moonlight glowing on her skin. Flowers are vast, and they conceal the freshly cut green grass. Not one human was present. This scenery made my walk worthwhile. The cool breeze continues to touch her bare skin, making her a little cold. She ended up in front of a Baroque-style fountain made of stone and marble, with two medium-sized waterfalls on each side. Rias looked up at the mesmerizing starry sky with a content smile as she listens to the sound of the water, until her smile vanished when she smelled something unpleasant wafting in the air. She raised her guard up and frantically looked around, trying to find where the smell is coming from. The young Grimoire ran around the fountain and almost fell to her knees when she came across a dead body. Oh no, at the back of her mind, she thought that it was partly her fault that the boy ended up dead. In front of her looks like a young boy with the same age as her or younger. She inspected the body and came to a conclusion that it has been only a few minutes since he died. What should I do? An idea suddenly popped into her mind and decided to do it. As a high class she is capable of gathering her own servants into her peerage up to 15, which are represented by each piece in a chess game. Crimson colored hair darker than ripe strawberry. It was the first thing he noticed when his visions came back. It baffled him that he came back to life. I thought I died. It was like she read his thoughts. I believed a fallen angel killed you. I'm really sorry for what happened to you. I. She started to tear up, surprising the young boy and even herself. Please don't cry. It doesn't suit you while still lying down. He lifted his hand with the one without a trace of blood and brushed her tears away and placed it on her cheek. Rias blushed at his action and leaned on to his touch. It calmed her in an instant and felt safe with him. It's their first time meeting. But his mere presence screamed something odd about him. There was this fluttering feeling inside him and shrugged it off when he suddenly felt himself weaken by the second, trying to stay conscious as long as possible. May I know your name? It didn't take Rias a second for her to tell him her identity. Wait, you're a devil. Then that makes me a reincarnated devil. She nodded at him, quite surprised how calm he seems to be. She really thought he would be upset that she turned him into her kind. Are you not afraid of me? Issei shook his head but stopped immediately when he felt his head pound in pain. How about you? Your name? Omen, I should have told you first. I'm Issei Hyoudou, and I want to thank you for saving me. Issei, his hand on her cheek went limp and fell down on the ground. He lost consciousness once again. What am I going to do now? She nuzzled his hair softly. Why don't you start by explaining to me why you are here, Rias? Beep, she squeaked. She abruptly stood up from her seating position and turned to face her older brother with his wife besides him. Ani-sama, I was going to look for you. Surziches took a step closer to her and patted her head. If you thought I neglected my duty for you, you don't need to worry yourself about that. Your brother is just really careless, that's all. She pouted and removed his hand. Grafia, can you look for this boy's home? Certainly. She conjured up a magic circle and disappeared. I see that you revived him. Is there a particular reason for that? It's nothing. She looked away from him. He noticed the pink hue dusted on her cheeks and inwardly smiled. Are you really fine now? And how come you're here? Did mother let you? Yes, I am, and I told Akasama that I will just take a breather. And here you are, in the human world. You don't even have someone to guard you, you know how dangerous it is. Rias fought the urge to roll her eyes because of her brother's lecture like a mother, but was thankful to have someone so caring. Don't worry, I won't do it again, Ani-sama. Good. Another cold breeze passed by them, making Rias shiver. We need to go home now, little Ria, before your fever recur. I understand, but what about Issei? We'll take him home. As if on cue, Grafia appeared. Surziches-sama. The said man nodded and took the boy in his arms, while Rias held on to Grafia, making the silver-haired beauty crack a smile. Mr. and Mrs. Hyoudou was about to call the cops when they heard the doorbell rang. Issei. Surziches let them take the boy and gave them a smile. Thank you for bringing our little boy back. This is Hyoudou said whilst hugging her son. There's no need to thanks us, we are happy to help. The couple was first confused as to how they found their house and to what happened to Issei's previous clothes, but then they felt everything to be okay, believing the crimson-haired. Surziches altered their memories as he told them a different story. Would you like to stay for a while? Thank you for the offer, but we need to get going. They bid them goodbye, and the couple thanked them once again. Mr. and Mrs. Hyoudou tucked their son in bed and kissed his forehead. Chappie 2. I'm back. Months has passed since that fateful incident that repeatedly sent him to this gruesome land of horror and revulsion. His ghastly death of a spectacle seems to be getting worse every night, leaving him desperately crying, his hands shaking uncontrollably, and his mind screaming for the agonizing pain to stop, as if he might die from it. He sat upright and placed a hand on his forehead, trying to ease the headache. The pain eventually stopped with the help of his friend. Partner, you alright? Yeah, thanks Drag. I'm sure the pain will end. Issei looked down at his clenched fist. Why not now? He mumbled under his breath. All in good time, the heavenly dragon decided not to say anything to him further and left him to his thoughts. As midnight comes trailing, a clear night illuminated only by the glint of starlight and the radiance of a bright moon, letting him forget about every bit of his dreadful memory. His mind began to wander back to the night he met the dragon, days after his bloody death and reincarnation. He dreamt of him dying once again with no crimson-haired beauty in sight, then the vast darkness slowly encompasses him. Not far from him is a pair of glimmering eyes. It made his skin crawl. Who are you? A powerful aura and intense heat began to emit at the unknown source, and soon flames made an appearance around. I am me. The sweat dropped at the confusing answer, and it scared him knowing that a powerful being is in front of him. What are you on about? Issei almost fell because of the sight before him, a massive red western dragon. He also has red and golden spikes throughout his body. I just wanted to greet you, since we're fighting together as partners from now on. Partners? Who are you? I'm getting confused here. I'm sure you already know, considering you're smart for your age. Don't you, partner? After that everything went black again. New white rays shined through the window, light filtered through his thin eyelids that awoken him from his slumber. He blinked a few times, in an attempt to help his eyes adjust to the illumination directed right at his defenseless figure. He turned to his clock and felt relief to see it still a bit early for him to actually get up and greet his parents. That was one weird dream. That was not a dream, partner. Issei immediately got up and frantically looked around his room. Huh? Then he felt something on his left hand, a glowing green disc-shaped thing plastered on the back of his hand. The sacred gear. He suddenly remembered the fallen angel's words. He was desolated by remembering his death. I see that you remembered, yours is listed as one of the 13 longinus. Longinus what? Top-tier sacred gears that can be used to kill gods. And what you have is called the boosted gear that my very spirit resides in. How did you end up as a sacred gear? When the three great powers, God and the angels, the fallen and the devils were fighting, and in the midst of the war, there were two foolish dragons who started a big fight. They fought wildly on the battlefield. Why were they fighting anyway? They probably don't remember the reasons themselves. What troublesome guys. And unless something was done about those guys, the war couldn't continue, so the three great powers made a temporary truce to deal with the dragons. The two dragons' fight was stopped. They went crazy with anger and lashed out at the leaders. They didn't think anyone should intervene with their fight, it was just payback, plain and simple. In the end, the two were cut into thousands of pieces, and their souls were sealed within humans as sacred gears. Since then, the two have used humans as intermediaries to meet and fight, time and again. What are their names? Those two dragons are Drag and Albion, so I'm guessing you're Drag, right? His reminiscing halted to a stop when his alarm clock loudly blares its annoying sound, indicating the time for his meditation. He went to the center of his room and plopped down in an Indian position. Both of his foot is placed on the opposite thigh, head and neck are in line with his spine. Issei closed his eyes as he deeply focuses on relaxing. The silence caressed his skin like a cool summer breeze, smoothing his soul and taking away every jagged edge. A second-year high school student who just transferred with short brown hair and light brown eyes. He has a muscular and toned build with a height of 177 centimeters. Wearing Kuo Academy boy's uniform, consists of a black blazer that he left open with white accents over long-sleeved shirt with vertical linings, discarding the black ribbon and having few buttons down, a matching black pants, and black combat shoes. It was still so early in the morning that he decided to walk around town that he missed. The streets is as silent as if it ended in the night, except for Issei's footsteps echoing. The sun is still resolutely below the horizon, and the altitude is really cool. He just got back a few days ago with his parents after staying at the countryside with his grandparents for 10 years. Issei scanned the new buildings and stores around him, having the same familiar feeling he had back then whenever he strolls around. Feeling good, partner? Yup, he said, popping the pea and took some deep calming breaths. Greg was really glad that Issei is better compared to before. As what we have expected, there are a lot of them. Hope we won't bump into one. They're clearly asking for the impossible. If we ever encounter them, I'll just kick their asses. I'm not the same naive boy anymore. Both of them howled in laughter as Drake agreed with him. The two were talking about fallen angels that might be lurking around, waiting for the right time to strike and kill him once more. He turned a corner towards the direction of his new school. The only reason he went back is because Kuo is where the crimson-haired beauty resides. Only a few students are present, making him feel relieved and felt relaxed. He toured the large school around and stumbled upon the old school building. Rias Pav. I couldn't sleep well last night and woke up slightly early than usual, so I prepared myself for school. Something inside me tells me today is going to be different than any other, making me feel anxious and excited at the same time. I said my farewells to everyone in the house and walked to the direction of Kuo Academy. I can feel the stares of other people around me, Some are whispering things that seems to be too good to be true. Hope this day goes well. As I heaved out a sigh, I suddenly felt a familiar aura radiating from somewhere. It made my heart race with anticipation. I put a hand on top of my chest, trying my best to calm the fast beating. When I made it in the old school building, I went to one of the wood-paneled room that looks like an office and opened the window and looked outside. Under the bright sun, its rays warm my skin. The leaves of the tree just below have that soft green, and the ground is scattered with vivid blooms whose petals dance in the breeze. Then something caught my eye, more like someone. Suddenly I can feel my heartbeat race once more. The boy with brown hair lying under the shade of the big oak tree with his eyes closed. I just stared at him. That feels like forever, but has only been a few minutes until I felt a hand on my shoulder. Akeno Oheu, the queen of my peerage, just looked at me with worry. Is there something wrong? I asked. Shouldn't I be the one to ask you that? What do you mean? I have been calling you multiple times earlier and you were just staring out the window. I'm sorry, a lot of things are plaguing my mind right now. I glanced away from her sharp yet concerned gaze and walked towards my desk and looked at the papers. She seems to have noticed that I don't want to talk and left me be to prepare some tea. I drowned myself in reading reports and feedbacks from clients and signed papers that needed my signature. The loud ringing sound interrupted me from my work, signaling the start of homeroom. I once again looked out the window and felt somewhat disappointed when I didn't see him. Who is he? Do I know him? Chapter 3. First fake date. Mina-san, konnichiwa. The woman with silky straight black hair and deep brown eyes walked in, wearing a white blouse with a bow collar, black pencil skirt ending just above her knees, and black ankle strap heels. To say she's beautiful is an understatement for someone her age. Everyone immediately went back to their respective seats and happily greeted her back. Today, someone new will be joining our class, she exclaimed excitedly. The thought of having a new student sent the occupants of class 3B in a frenzy. And Hyoudou-kun. Their breath hitched and everything seems to be in slow motion. Issei casually walks in with his hands inside his pocket and a grin plastered on his face. Yo, I'm Issei Hyoudou, 17 years of age, Edo. Due to certain circumstances, I moved back here in Kuo. Nice to meet you all. He awkwardly bowed a little and gave them a small wave of his hand. There was a moment of silence. They gawked at him and his overall appearance like model before their sensei broke it and directed for Issei to sit on the vacant seat at the back row. Their first few subjects bore him to death, sending him to sleep or just stare into nothingness. It was a good thing their sensei didn't notice him not paying attention. When lunchtime came, he was bombarded by girls asking him questions. Issei-san, would you like to join us for lunch? Please say yes. You have a really toned body. Do you work out often? Do you have a girlfriend? What are your hobbies? Do you have a club in mind? I hope you join ours. Ray couldn't help but laugh while Issei cursed him internally for mocking him. He shyly rubbed his nape as he glances away and his cheek starts to redden from the attention and immediately turned his gaze back to them. He calmly answered their questions with only revealing a few things about him. The girls didn't bother hiding their disappointment but still happy knowing he's single and he agreed to eat together some other time. He stood up from his seat and put his hands in his pocket. And by the way, just call me Issei, no need for honorifics. He winked at them before walking away, their gazes still on him with hearts in their eyes. So smooth, partner Drake said in Issei's mind. What can I say? I learned from you. Issei chuckled to himself. Just don't break too many hearts. Oh, shut up, Drake. He too laughed along the dragon and made his way to his destination, and this time, he concealed his aura better to not get noticed by unwanted beings. He plopped himself down the grass-covered ground and leaned against the trunk of the tree that shaded him from the hot sun. It's safe to say they know you are here, considering you forgot to conceal your presence the moment you step into this town again. DSK, I know that already, Drake, and I'm so stupid for it. I'm happy that you know that you're also dumb. Issei let out a fake laugh and took out his bento from his pocket dimension and began to eat at a leisurely pace. Good luck then, I'm sure there will be one or two that will come for you today. Is that a bet? Better think twice because I don't think so. Their argument starts to get heated, then Issei rambles on how it's impossible for someone to find him so soon. When he was still talking mentally while shoving food in, he didn't notice a Kuo Academy student coming towards them, except Drake noticed her presence. Partner Drake called him, and then his tone quickly took a turn. I won, suck someone's ass, you lose. How come? He accidentally yelled aloud, then he sets his bento aside and looks frustrated from losing so fast. I felt an odd presence earlier that seems to be coming towards us. Then a young woman with violet eyes having a slender body came a few minutes later prior to their fighting. She had long silky black hair down to her hips. Hi, are you Issei Hyoudou? Hi. Since you lost the bet, ask her on a date. Are you serious? Very. Issei thought for a moment if he should but eventually gave in. Can I help you with something? Issei stood up and dusted his rear from the dirt. Hyoudou-kun, are you seeing anyone at the moment? The unknown girl shyly glances away while fidgeting in place. And no, he cursed himself in the inside for stuttering. She perked up when she heard his answer. I'm glad to hear that. Ask her out already, Drake said impatiently. Getting to it, the girl excuses herself and apologizes for the interruption and was about to walk away when Issei grabs her wrist in a gentle hold. Oh no, may I know your name? Ah Gomen, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Amano Yuma. Then Yuma-san, would you like to go on a date with me? Ba. Is it not okay with you? No, that's not it, of course I would love to. That's great, let's have it this Sunday. Yuma agreed and went for a hug. I'm looking forward to it. She let go of him and immediately left. Damn you Drake. He grumbles under his breath. Good luck on your date, partner. But kidding aside, you felt her aura, right? Yeah, and that's the only reason why I agreed going on a date with her. His mind was scattered, genuinely nervous of the possible outcome of their date. He was a bit early, standing in front of their meeting place, occasionally checking his watch for the time. Issei-kun, his head shot up when he heard his name and gave the caller a smile. Hey, Yuma-san. Sorry, did I keep you waiting? Oh no, I just got here. He held his hand for her to take and then they walked along the busy streets. Where are we going, Issei-kun? It's a secret, he said with a matching cryptic yet playful tone. It took them a few minutes before stopping in front of what seems to be a fancy restaurant. Wow, this place is beautiful. Glad you like it, he inwardly let out a sigh of relief. Even though this is all fake, he decided to go all out. Name, sir? The man in front asked. Hyoudou Issei. He scanned the booklet and saw Issei's reservation. This way, sir. He led them to their table and served them drinks. I ordered in advance and I hope it's okay with you. You're not allergic to anything, are you? Oh, don't worry, I'm not. At first, the atmosphere seems to be awkward, but soon turned comfortable as they started to eat. They left the place after paying the bill and went for a stroll. An agitated Rias Gremory watches them while hiding behind a tree nearby. She didn't mean to intrude in their date, she just saw them going from shop to shop and felt the need to follow them. Are they together? She asked herself. The scene in front of her made her feel uneasy, yet she kept following the two. Besides from the Crimson Beauty following them, there is also another one. Of course Issei noticed but kept his cool and let them be. As the day progresses and the sun about to set, Issei and Yuma went to the park. We had a lot of fun today, Yuma happily exclaimed. Yeah, but Issei stopped in his tracks and created a distance from one another. What's the matter, Issei-kun? Shouldn't you be the one telling me? Don't try to lie and show your true self. Yuma's whole demeanor suddenly changed. So you already know, huh? For how long? Issei nonchalantly shrugged his shoulders. Since the day we met. Then a pair of black feathered wings sprouted from her back. Although short-lived, playing innocent lovey-dovey with you was fun, Issei-kun. Likewise, Yuma-san, he spoke in such a cold voice, sending shivers down her spine. She summoned forth a light spear and charged at Issei. Well, he just stood there waiting for the blow. Ria's movements halted to a stop when she saw what was about to happen. She was about to bolt up right there when something unexpected shook her to her core. Yuma's light spear stopped inches away from Issei's heart. Not going to finish the job. He held the spear by the side and gently pushed it away. His hand was slightly burned from the holy object. She hunged her head low while trying her best to stop the tears from falling. I don't think I can. From the short time we spent together, you became someone as special to me. She doesn't know the reason herself, she just felt a little bit closer to him. Both Issei and Rias didn't know what to think of it, eventually losing a brain cell or two from what they heard. Issei was about to say something when someone familiar pulled her away and stabbed him on his abdomen. He clutched a bloodied wound and fell on his back. I'm just gonna wait till they leave. You're nothing but a disgrace to him, Rainer. The man in all black said while having a tight grip on her wrist, while the other held a light blue spear, blood covering the tip. She tried to break free from the hold but couldn't. Issei, she screamed his name. Rias couldn't believe what she is seeing, more infuriating and frustrating than what she heard earlier. She was frozen once again. After the so-called Amano Yuma got taken away by the other fallen, the crimson-haired beauty rushed towards Issei's location. No, you can't die again on me. She tore a part of her dress and applied pressure to the wound. Rias kept muttering the word sorry in a soft voice, while tears are streaming down and even getting some of the blood on her. Drag, a little help here. The Welsh dragon complied and used a small amount of his ice powers to freeze Issei's bloody wound. Wha? How? Rias was clearly bewildered by this sudden occurrence. Issei lifted one of his hand and took strands of crimson hair. Crimson-colored hair darker than ripe strawberry. She blushed because of what he said and averted her gaze the other way. Long time no see, Rias, he said, propping himself up using his elbows. She looked at him again and was met by his toothy bright smile. Rias didn't reply, but moved a little bit more close to him and hugged him from the side, careful enough not to touch the wound. We better go. Issei wobbly stood up with her help and conjured up a magic circle to transport them to his place. When they got there, Rias immediately asked for a first aid kit and patched him up. Are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? Her eyebrows furrows in worry. Yeah, I'll be good as new in the morning, just need to rest a bit, he said while striking a pose. His whole attitude suddenly took a turn, from being happy-go-lucky to being shy. Rias-san, would you like to stay? The crimson-haired's eyes widen in surprise. And the sudden use of honorifics is what she got from what he said. Are you okay? Moving a bit closer to her and he was about to place a hand on her forehead to feel her temperature, but she turned away the last second. What about why your parents? Oh them? They live in our old house before and then they insisted that I should live in one rather than an apartment or condo. So that's why this house lacks furnitures. Back to my question earlier. I'm sure it's pretty late too. She called one of her maids and told her that she will be staying at a friend's house, then they stumbled upon a predicament. Issei insisted that he should prepare them dinner, but Rias strongly opposed to the idea since he's injured and she ended up cooking. When everything was set for dinner, Rias told Issei to taste the food first. Sugoi Rias-san, he exclaimed with mouthful of food. Is it really that good? He nodded his head and took another spoonful using her own spoon and directed it in front of her. What are you doing? She asked. Open your mouth. She hesitantly did of what she was said to do with her eyes closed. Her eyes snapped open when the taste finally sank in as she chewed, not expecting it to be passable. It's good, isn't it? I bet you'll be a great wife someday. Rias blushed to what he said. She looked at him like he had grown another head, but it seems like he didn't notice the effects of his words on her. She resumed eating the plate of food she prepared and soon both were done. After cleaning up, the possessor of boosted gear showed Rias to her room and gave her clothes to wear for the night. She politely declined the offer considering she sleeps naked, but eventually took the clothes. Her night in bed just consists of her moving around and soon discarding the sleeping wear. It was nerve-wracking for her to be in someone's house that she barely knows, yet she chose to stay and trusted him. Morning finally came and truth be told that he really did recover. Rias bid him goodbye after eating breakfast and went home to prepare for school. Chapter 4. Blonde Nun. Issei walks along the pathway to Kuo Academy, which each stride, a memory of yesterday comes passing through his mind. He was upset since the incident yesterday brought him to another dreadful memory from the distant past, yet he was ecstatic, knowing that the crimson-haired beauty remembered and helped him yesterday. Then he was taken back to the real world when a pretty young girl with long blonde hair and green eyes laid on the ground on her sides while rubbing her bottom. Why did I trip? She said with a pout. Hyoudou Issei hastily shook his head. This is not the time for that, he mentally scolded himself. Her suitcase wide open with clothes everywhere around her. He immediately ran off towards her and lended a hand for the blonde to take. Miss, are you alright? Thank you. Issei gently hoisted her up and awkwardly let go of her hand when he caught himself holding it longer than necessary. Sorry. He then noticed her white veil being blown by the wind. One sec. He said and chased the veil. After a few seconds of fighting against the wind, he managed to return it to the blonde. Thank you very much. Oh, you're very welcome. The blonde nun started to fiddle with her fingers and turned her gaze sideways while her cheeks turned pinkish. Is there anything wrong? I got lost and need help. I can accompany you if you want. Oh, that would be much appreciated. He took her suitcase from her grasp and carried it as they walked. Are you on a trip? I was actually appointed to this town's church. You're a nun, huh? She nodded shyly, once again looking down on the pavement floor. I'm so glad I met such a nice person like you, it must have been divine guidance. The blonde looked up to Issei, but this time a smile adorned her face. He smiled back and continued their walk towards the only church in Kuo. Both were enveloped in a comfortable silence, but was interrupted by a kid crying in pain. The blonde instantaneously went to the kid and saw his scraped knee. Don't cry, it's just a scrape, everything is going to be just fine, she said with a soft voice. Issei stood at the background with a smile, his face then turned to shock when he saw her ring glowing a green color and the boy's scrape slowly healing. I knew she was different, but this takes the cake. I didn't know she possesses a sacred gear. Take care of her, partner. Don't let Folens go after her, she has a rare one. Of course. Look, your wound's gone, it's alright now. The boy looked baffled but soon turned to happiness. Arigato one-chan. He stood up and dusted himself. He gave the blonde a hug and ran off to school. Issei helped her up and said, well, you have a pretty amazing powers. It's a wonderful power granted by God. And oh, it must be that place, she said, clearly excited to go, but her gleeful bearing was spoiled by a phone ringing loudly. Issei swiftly took it out from his right pocket and tapped the answer button. Hello, he greeted. As the call goes on, the caller asked him where he is and told him to go to school. Domin, I'm going now. Hi. As he ended the call with his classmate, he looks a bit disappointed. What's wrong? The blonde asked. I'm sorry, but I need to go to school, maybe we can meet some other time, he suggested, and she nodded her head happily, immediately agreeing. My name is Asia Argento, please call me Asia. I'm Hyoudou Issei, you can call me Issei. He handed her suitcase back and waved at her goodbye. Before he can go, he heard her say something. I'm really happy to have met someone as kind as you this quickly after arriving in Japan. Please visit the church when you find the time. Yeah, I will. He gave her one last smile and then turned the other way, going to Kuo Academy. She's really a good girl. Who are you? A tall man with glasses asked while holding a frying pan as a weapon. I was asked to replace Kaneko-san tonight since she's double booked. But I don't want a man, I want the cute Kaneko-chan. Issei sweat dropped. The summoner finally calmed down after a while and even offered Issei some tea. Oh, thank you. He held it in his hands and took a sip. You're a demon, so you must have a talent, show me. Talent, huh? What does Kaneko-san usually do? There's cosplay and being held in arms, just like a pretty princess. He took out a sailor uniform and happily showed it to him. Well, I can produce fire and a little bit of ice. Issei stretched out his right arm and came out a tiny ball of fire from his palm, while an ice cube formed from his left hand. Sugoi. The summoner eyed the two element in awe. You can touch the fire though. What? Do you want me burn my finger off? Issei dismissed the fire and ice and waved his hands defensively. No, it's nothing like that. My flames can only burn those I deem as my enemy. He explained, which doesn't seem to convince the man in front of him. Issei took the sailor uniform from the table and encased it in flames. My cosplay. Wait, just look at it first. He gazed intensely at his burning cosplay, and his face soon turned to amazement. That's so cool, how did you do that? He snatched the uniform from Issei's grasp and seized hold of it. Then the flames began to spread to his entire body and only felt comfort and warmth. Quick, take a picture of me. He brought out his digital camera from his pocket that is also in flames. When Issei touched the camera, the flames were immediately extinguished. The summoner repeatedly struck a pose, and his posing only ended when he got tired of moving too much. Issei put out the flames and took a fan from somewhere and starts fanning the tired summoner and presented an ice cold water. Then they just talked for a bit, mostly about Dragonemperor. Thanks, you're really good summon for a pretty boy like you. Anytime, he exclaimed with a grin. Issei's night ended with him forming a contract with him and went back to the club room to report. The next few days turned out to be normal than what he thought, no fallen in sight. It was like they don't even exist. It was quiet, too quiet for his liking. Issei was bored, so bored that he considered skipping class. Why don't you? Drake asked, cutting him out of his train of thoughts. I might get in trouble, you know, and the news of me skipping might also reach but you, then I'll be scolded, he shot back. Just think of this as scouting the perimeters, since you're so bothered about those fallen. You're really a bad influence, but good idea, non-ethylus. You're welcome, brat. Issei ignored the last part and sneakily got out of school during their lunch break and made his way to the park. There he saw a blonde nun that he immediately recognized, seemingly in deep thoughts, her brows furrowed and lips in a tight line. Asia-san. At first, it looks like she haven't realized his presence and is sitting on the park bench with no signs of moving anytime soon. He hollered her name for a couple of times and was able to make her look up. Issei-san, I'm sorry I didn't notice you there, she said while slightly bowing. It wouldn't take a genius to see that she's alone and troubled, and since Issei is with no one else either, he asked her if she would like to join him for lunch. I would love to, Issei-san. Her eyes gleams with happiness. Asia just sat in her seat with mild confusion as she engages herself in a staring contest with her round-shaped food wrapped in plastic. Asia-san. Issei put two and two together and came to a conclusion that this is the first time she have seen a hamburger. This is how you eat them, Asia-chan. The blonde nun blushed at the change of honorifics. He then took his own and took a large bite out of it. I didn't know you could eat it that way. She held her burger with both hands and slowly unwraps it. She took a small bite and then her eyes widen a little. Oishii. Issei just sat there with a grin on his face while watching the blonde happily eat her food like it's her first time. Stop staring, you perv. I was not, old man, Issei retorted back to the dragon. Just don't make it obvious. Issei ignored him and continued eating, matching Asia's pace. They went to the arcade after, requested by the blonde who seemed so eager to go the moment she finished. Let's play to our heart's content today, Asia-chan. They played every arcade game that piqued their interest, the racing games, shooting games and even the ones for little kids. What this? It looks like one of those machines that have food in them. Issei turned to where Asia pointed at and nodded his head. That's a coin-operated machine with a camera inside, wanna try it? Asia first looks unsure, but agreed to try it when Issei gave her a reassuring glance. Look over there and smile. Their first picture looks cute with an adorable Asia looking at the camera with interest. She soon got the hang of it and took a few more with different frame design for each picture. I've never had so much fun in my life. Asia-chan, you're exaggerating. Issei said as he waves his right hand in front of him while the other held his drink. But it's true, she casted her eyes down and walks towards one of the benches nearby and patted the space next to her. Issei took a seat and waited for her to continue. You know, Issei-san, my parents abandoned me right after I was born. I was told I had been found crying in front of a small European town's church. Issei felt bad and placed a hand on her shoulder. She flinched upon contact, but soon relaxed from the hold, returning the smile given to her and resumed her story. When I was 8, a wounded dog, close to death, wandered into the church. I prayed as hard as I could, and that's when a miracle occurred. Soon afterward, I was taken to a big church where I was ordered to heal illnesses and wounds of people coming from all over the world. I was so happy that my power could help people. A sad smile then twitched its way up to her face. Then, one day, I encountered a man, heavily injured on the floor. But the man I came across was a demon. I was branded a heretic because I had the power to even heal demons. Issei came to realization. So that's why she got picked up by Fallens, because she had nowhere else to go. But I never stopped praying to God, expressing my gratitude. The Lord must be testing me. If I can overcome this ordeal, he will make my dream come true someday. Your dream? I'll make a lot of friends, together we'll buy flowers and books and chat, that's my dream. I don't have any friends, you see. She finally looked up at him, adorning a smile with her eyes closed. I'll be your friend, Asia-chan, he said with a serious look while looking from afar. It didn't last long when he once again looked at her with a shy smile. I mean, aren't we already friends? We chatted and had fun together, after all. He slightly scratched his cheek with his index finger with a blush on. Well, we didn't get to the flowers or books, but still, or is it still not enough? But I'm causing you a lot of trouble, Issei-san. No, not at all. And you're my friend and nothing's gonna change that. She gasped, placing both of her hands on her chest, feeling her heart flutter in happiness after hearing she have someone, and slowly smiled with tears starting to form on the corner of her eyes. I'm happy. Their afternoon together ended with the two of them now parting ways. Are you sure you don't want me to walk you home? Don't worry about me, Issei-san. Besides, I want to take this time to think about something. Oh, if that's the case, see you. Unsee you, Issei-san. She flung herself onto him and buried her face on his chest, right where his heart is. Issei gently returned the embrace and ruffled her hair once they broke off. Be careful, okay? I'll be fine, it's not dark yet. Issei heaved a sigh and bid her goodbye and walks away with a grin plastered on his face which didn't last long. SHT but you is gonna kill me. He conjured up a magic circle and hopped on, appearing right outside the old school building. When he was just in front of the clubroom's door, he knocked twice before coming in when he heard the president's consent. Maybe she didn't know, school actually just ended earlier. All hopes of surviving dropped to zero when he suddenly felt a murderous intent from someone standing by the window. Issei, she slowly turned around, raising her right hand with a black bowl of demonic energy encased in crimson, forming. Where have you been? He screamed colorful words mentally and his heart starts hammering inside. Drag, help, what was our reason? You're on your own, ha 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 ha. FCKU, Drag. You I just went out for some fresh air. Oh, really? You were gone for hours, Issei. I'm not going to make you tell me what you did but never do it again. I'm sorry but you. He kneeled down on the ground and bowed. You can't just say sorry then expect for everything to be fine. You didn't even bother to tell me. His scolding lasted for about 2 hours. Because of your insubordination, you'll be giving out flyers for 2 weeks during weekends, and you are not allowed to use teleportation whenever you pleased. You will only walk to the house of your summoner or ride a bike. Rias finished with a huffed. That's too much, please reconsider. But you, he said the last part with matching puppy eyes. Ria's eyes softened a little, but immediately turned back to its hardened gaze. Well, I guess you'll have to learn to deal with it, or perhaps you would rather have it for a month. No, sorry for questioning your order, but I'll do my best. Stand up and do your job now, someone asked for you. Issei saluted and flashed her a toothy grin, bidding the others a see you later and out the door. Chapter 5. New chess piece. The next day, Issei seems to be more wary than before. His gut is telling him that something is up again. What's wrong, Issei-senpai? You look like you don't enjoy what you're reading. Kaneko asked. No, I'm fine. It's just that we have a test tomorrow, he half lied. Don't you enjoy reading, Issei-kun? Kiba joined in. Well, I heard you're smarter than you let on, but they may be wrong, though, the blonde teased. That's ridiculous, I don't look stupid. Where did you even hear that, Kiba? I heard it from a group of girls I passed by talking about you. Really? There are girls that admires Issei-senpai. You're so mean, Kaneko-san. Bei-chen. Kiba laughed at Kaneko's response and Issei's devastated face. Ara, isn't it getting a bit lively here? Their third-year senpai said as she comes inside the clubroom. Akeno, welcome back. Any news? Rias stood up from her seat and walks towards Akeno in such a hurry. Hi, but you. The Archduke just sent us a message. Apparently, a group of fallen aroused suspicion at the church. Asia, multiple thoughts began to swirl inside Issei's head, making his calm facade show a crack. Issei. Rias worriedly looked at him with furrowed brows. I'm fine. She didn't look convinced with the way he responded but dropped the subject. He took some deep breaths and his demeanor returned back to normal. As I was saying, we will split into 2 groups. Akeno and I will lure the Fallens outside of the church, expecting them to think that we'll all take the back entrance. Well, the 3 of you, she paused for a brief moment, will go ahead inside through the front, search everywhere for the ritual site, then contact me. Does everyone understand? Hi. What murderous intent, Kiba stated with his left hand resting on the hilt of his sword. There must be a lot of them. This makes me feel relieved that I'm with you guys. We're a team, after all. He smiled towards Issei, but then his personality suddenly turned unpleasant. And personally, I'm not overly fond of Fallens and priests. I despise them, his eyes seemingly lost to faraway lands as he continues to glare menacingly. Issei gave him a worried glance and waited for him to calm down, then he saw Kaneko walking straight to the main doors. Kaneko-san. Why bother hiding? They must have known we're here. Hiba and Issei immediately jumped beside her, she then kicked the doors open. Hey, is it my lucky day? 3 demon trash in one night, how wonderful. The creepy looking priest with white hair came out while holding a sword and a gun on the other. You know, I'm strong, so once I meet one of your kind he gets this treatment, he said, gesturing a line through his neck with his thumb. Kaneko didn't waste any more time and made the first move, grabbed the large wooden table nearby and threw it at him. The priest sliced it into 2 and took a step back, shielding his eyes using the back of his arm from the dust. You're one insolent midget. Hiba sprang into action and engages himself with the priest. Insolent. He was able to lead an advantage, making the priest drop the sword because of the deep cut on his shoulder. The priest readied his gun and shoot directly to Issei. He dodged the bullet at the last second and kicked the weapon and sweeps him off of his feet. Kaneko-san, now. Kaneko quickly jumps up, clasping both of her hands together and slams it down on the priest. There was a cracking sound heard and screams from the assault. That F-king hurts. With Rias and Akeno. Look who's here, people call me the fallen angel middled. The blonde girl that has her hair in pigtails jumped down from the branch she was sitting on and did a curtsy. Oh my, how courteous of you, Akeno said with a hand on her right cheek while still smiling. My servant sensed you, you must be scared about us being on the move, Rias said calmly. Perhaps, since you two are the only ones who actually stand a chance of interrupting our ritual. Oh really? You'll be surprised by the results after all this, we're not going to join them. Miltilt ignored her. Come forth, Kalwarner and Donaseek. It's obvious you intend to interfere with our plan, repent with your life. The man named Donaseek summoned a light blue light spear and used his black feathered wings. Akeno, got it, but you. Akeno envelops herself in yellow light and transforms her clothes into a traditional Maiko attire. She placed a barrier around them and multiple red magic circles appeared around them. You can't get out of this one, I'm afraid. We came here to get rid of all of you. A red hue began to make an appearance on Akeno's cheeks. She places a finger on her lower lip and shows a sickeningly sadistic smile. Enjoy posing. Once the ritual is over, even you won't be able to stand in her way, Kalwarner said. Care to tell what you intend to do? Rias asked. Why would we? We're not an idiot to do that. Kalwarner stated it like it's a fact. Then we have no other choice but to eliminate all of you. Now Rias turned to Akeno and gave her a nod. The 3 fallen then flew up into the air with their light spears in hand and threw it in a blink of an eye. The light spears were directed towards Rias, but Akeno blocked it for her and sent electrical discharges. Not bad, but we'll see how long that fragile barrier can last, Donaseek said as he casually lands on a thick branch. Your servants should be in for a beating by now, especially that weak brown-haired boy you got as a servant. I remembered his pathetic face when Donaseek stabbed him years ago. A malicious grin appeared on Kalwarner's face as she spoke. Don't underestimate Issei, Rias said as calm as possible, but her insides are in turmoil and that Kalwarner fallen still continued. Oh right, I remembered something. You bunch of high-class trash depict your servants as chess pieces, right? If I'm not wrong, he's your pawn. How desperate can you be to put him in the front lines with the others? Oh my, our club president would never sacrifice any pieces. Akeno pipped in, clearly anticipating the next event. No matter how good you think he is, he doesn't stand a chance against Rainer-sama, because as far as what I have seen, he's the weakest. Middlet exclaimed with her pink light spear appearing once again, the others doing the same, and was ready to charge at Rias, but was pushed back by a sudden wave of powerful crimson. You made fun of my servant. Her hair floating in the air while her fringes covered her eyes and still emitting a powerful aura. Oh my, you shouldn't have made her upset. Akeno took a step back and smiled, excited of the outcome. Issei grabbed the priest's shirt and started to shake him. Oi, don't pass out now, where's the ritual site? The priest lifted a shaking finger and pointed towards the altar, and then passed out. Kaneko used her strength and wrecked the altar, revealing a passageway. I already contacted Butchu, she said they're on their way, and that we should go on ahead. Hiba said taking out his sword from its sheath again. They made their way down and was greeted by a large group of priests, right on top with Asia chained to a glowing cross. Asia, welcome demons and my beloved Issei-kun, sorry to ruin our reunion, but the ritual is almost over. Issei can't help but feel disgusted with the way Rainer looked at him. I see, that fallen angel's objective was to take Asia-san's sacred gear, Kiba said with worry. No, Asia might die. The light from the ritual suddenly died out, 2 rings came floating down to Rainer's grasp. The twilight healing is finally mine. The priests began to attack the 3. You demons. FCK off, we don't have time to deal with you. Issei yelled at them as he threw a priest towards the others, knocking several down. Issei-kun, get Asia-san, we'll back you up. Right. Issei made it up the stairs with ease and faced Rainer. You can have her. She is no longer useful. But the snap of her fingers, the chain around Asia came undone. Issei caught her in his arms and gently shook her. Asia, wake up. Issei-san, she said in a whisper and fainted. Give back her sacred gear. As much as I like you, unfortunately, I can't. Stop with the lie that you like me. While still holding Asia he snapped at the fallen. But it's true, her face then turned to an innocent one. I don't lie about what I feel, Issei-kun. Issei stood up, lifted Asia in a bridal carry. This isn't over yet, he said and jumped down the stairs. Rainer let him go for now and watched his back as he ran for the exit. The wielder of boosted gear laid the blonde nun down on one of the many long wooden seats in the church and held both of her hands. Asia, hang in there, you'll be free once we get out of here and we can have fun together, just like what you wanted, his eyes glistening with tears. Asia heard his voice and forced her eyes to open and spoke softly. It wasn't for long, but I'm so happy I was able to make a friend. She gave him a closed-eyed smile. There are so many more places I want to show you, we'll go wherever you want, and I haven't introduced you to my friends yet, so please hang in there. By now, tears are cascading down freely, his hands clutched onto hers tightly. Why, you're crying for me? She broke free from Issei's hold and used her right hand to brush away the tears. I couldn't ask for more, thank you. Her hand went limp and fell beside her. Asia? No, you can't die. Issei held her once more and cried while looking up. He felt like he was being stabbed over and over. He couldn't believe he has watched someone die again. I'm the worst. He let go of Asia and punched the ground angrily. No need to cry, Issei-kun. I'm here. Rainer appeared beside him and placed his head on her chest. Why did she have to die? She could have lived a peaceful life. Issei couldn't find the power in him to move. His eyes are beginning to become lifeless, but anger continued to build up inside him. This is the destiny of the chosen ones, those endowed with a sacred gear. This was bound to happen. That's no destiny, he said under his breath, enough for Rainer to hear every word. Partner, get a grip. Things can't end like this. What about Asia's feelings? Bragg spoke within his mind. Asia? Then something snapped inside of him as his body began to heat up. Ah, she hissed and jumped away from Issei. What's happening, Issei-kun? He didn't respond and just kept his head hanging low. Red scales started to appear under his right eye, not only on his face, but also his right arm up to his neck. Issei gritted his teeth, showing the perfectly white sharp set, and his eyes slowly turned black with red slits. You're the reason why Asia's dead. You took her sacred gear, and I will end you. He finally looked up to her, just his intense gaze made it hard for her to breathe. She summoned her light spear and used it as a defense. Issei charged at her with his dragonified right hand and crushed the spear. He then clenched it into a tight fist. She didn't have any time to dodge and was sent flying, destroying the roof in the process and coughing out blood. He stood there while looking up, breathing quite heavily as the whole room's temperature rises up and steam coming out of him. Issei, he turned to the caller and was greeted by the crimson-haired president, looking frightened by his appearance. Tiba and Kaneko behind her, while Akeno is nowhere to be found. He glared menacingly and was about to attack them when Akeno showed up with Rainer, that seems to be conscious at the moment. The sight of Rainer made him let out a deep growl as he makes his way to her. Rias ignored the other's call for her to stop, but she still ran forward and cradled him in her arms, dismissing the heat as she whispers soothing words to him. This isn't you, come back please. She pleaded with tears forming on the corner of her eyes. The heat started to subside and the scales on him disappeared. Rias broke the contact and helped Issei on his feet. Thank you, but you, Rias responded with a smile and turned her gaze on the soul fallen. Nice to meet you, fallen angel Rainer. My name is Rias Gremory, by the way. She took something from her pocket, dropping it on top of Rainer's head. Rainer stared, clearly shocked as 3 black feathers falls down on the ground. I blasted away your friends. And you made such a mess, but you, Akeno said, placing a hand on her cheek. We'll just have someone clean it up. Gremory girl, how dare you? You don't have the right to speak, Rainer. You and your friends have done enough damage. Her hands glowed crimson, and then a ball of destruction formed. Issei, help me please, I'll do anything you say. He just stared at her and gave Rias a nod to proceed. He turned around and waited for it to be over. He felt a little bit guilty, but it vanished when the thought of Asia struck him. When the light from the destruction died down, he returned his gaze back to Rias and saw her holding the twilight healing. Let's return this to her. Rias gave the rings to Issei and let him put it back. Issei, do you know what this is? She asked him while he holding a chess piece. A bishop? Yes, and a bishop's task is to support other demons in the household, and I'm sure her capabilities will make her a great one. But you, do you mean? I will try resurrecting her as a demon. They laid her on the floor, then a red Gremory seal appeared under her and glowed. I, Rias Gremory, hereby order you. Heed me, Asia Argento. Bring your soul back to this world and become my servant demon. You shall become my bishop. Asia's body also glowed red, and it disappeared when the process was done. Issei didn't waste any time and pulled her into a hug. Let's go back, Asia. Chapter 6. Issei needs help. Ani-sama, what do you mean you'll take Issei? Rias doesn't seem pleased. Rias, a friend told me that he went berserk, so I wanted to have him control his dragon side with the help of a former dragon king. But truth be told, she just didn't want to part with him. You told me that the red dragon emperor talked to you and that the seal on Issei was damaged, right? We need to help him control it before someone else gets hurt. A sudden memory came flashing through her mind. She was in this dark void. Rias Gremory, the heiress to the Gremory clan and the Amato of Lucifer. Glowing green eyes glimmers from a distance. Who are you? I am Drag, the partner of Issei Hyoudou. I came here to warn you about Issei's other half. Do you mean his dragon side? Yes, he gave up his entire right side to become a half-dragon, making his power increase exponentially. He does not have complete control over it yet, so I placed a temporary seal, but it was damaged by his anger and other emotions that fueled the transformation. I advise you and your peerage to exercise caution, or better yet tell your brother. We are running out of time. Wait, what does this have to do with Ani-sama? Let's just say he helped Issei in his roughest times. Farewell, Rias Gremory. Her eyes snapped open and carefully looked around her surroundings, finding herself to be in her room with little sunlight peeking from the window. Issei. Since it's Sunday, she decided to go to the Gremory household in the underworld, and then bringing us back to what they were talking about earlier with Surzich's. Fine, I guess it's for the better, she said with her eyes casted down. Surzich's placed a hand on her head and said, don't worry, he'll be back before you know it. The next day, Issei almost didn't bother hiding his displeasure since he doesn't want to go, but in the inside, Drag insisted. When will I go? Tomorrow, someone will come for you here in the morning, and I have talked about this with Sona, allowing you to miss school for as long as your training will last. Wait, how about Asia? I can't just leave her alone. The mentioned girl is sitting with Akeno, a silent Kaneko who's eating, and Kiba across them. The three are silently listening to their conversation, already knowing the reason for his departure. Akeno volunteered to stay with Asia, dragging Kaneko with her, so there is no need to worry. Really? Arigato, butchu, he bowed. Now go home early so you can prepare your things. He did what he was told and prepared the things he will need and called his parents, saying that he won't be home for who knows how long. Mr. and Mrs. Hyoudou seemed so worried but allowed him nonetheless. Issei slept somewhat comfortably, a little worried of the future and his duties as Ria's servant. It's nice to see you again, Hyoudou-san. The woman in a maid outfit greeted him. Same here, Grafia-san, and I beg you, just call me Issei. As you wish. The other members of the occult research club watched and looked bemused. I shouldn't be surprised. Drag-san did say that Ani-sama knows Issei, and it's only natural he also meets his wife and Queen Ria's thought. Ah, but you, before I go, please promise that you'll call me when something is wrong or if I'm needed. Issei, I don't think she started to reason, but he insisted. Just promise me. He looked at her with a determined expression that she couldn't resist. I promise, but in exchange, you'll do your best in training. I'm already planning on that, but you besides, I want to be the mightiest pawn. He raised his right hand to salute her. You better get going then. Rias nodded to Grafia. Good luck, Issei-san. Asia tackled him and a hug which he returned. We'll be waiting for you, Issei-kun. Issei, and Kiba did a fist bump. Kaneko showed him a small smile, while Akeno gave him a hexy photo of herself. Huh? Just look at it whenever you miss me. She gave him a sly smile. His whole face turned red by what she said. You can even see the steam coming out of his ears. Arigato, Akeno-san. He became a fumbling mess while holding on to the photo with shaking hands. Rias rolled her eyes at this and pulled on his ear. Ow, 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 that hurts, but you, he said, rubbing on his now redder right ear. Pull yourself together, Issei. She huffed, slightly pushing him in the magic circle. Jana, Mina. Shortly after they have arrived inside a protected train going to the underworld. Yo. The tall man in his 20s appeared, with his black hair and golden hair swaying slightly as he walks towards them. What's up, Azazel? Fancy seeing you here. Surzich's asked me for a favor. I'm here to supervise your training with a former dragon king. Then I'll be in your care. No need for that, you know. It's the least I can do, since you helped me clean up last time, and besides, I want to observe your sacred gear. What the former governor general of the fallen angels and Grigori meant was about Issei helping him with his fallen angel problem. Some have gone rogue in the human world. Their talk didn't last for much longer when they have reached their destination. That's where the two met up with a Lucifer. The rest of the Gremory members are nowhere to be seen except for his son, Milikus. When they entered the Gremory residence, several maids formed a line on both sides. Surzich's Lucifer greeted them enthusiastically. Issei, you'll be staying at a cottage in the mountains. Why don't you head up there and greet Tannen? Hi. They gave him directions to where the cottage is. He made it up there by foot with his massive bag consisting of his clothes and supplies. When he finally settled in, he changed into his grey tracksuit and decided to find the dragon that'll help him. Then he was greeted by a large western dragon that is covered in purple scales and has yellow horns in the rocky part of the mountain. The dragon looked down at him. This is the first time training one who wields Drag. His deep voice booms. Before we start your training, show me what you got, boy. Tannen inhales and gathers fire in his mouth and releases it, creating a large ball of fire. Issei was able to evade the attack in time by rolling to the side and block the incoming tail with his arms in a cross motion. The great force of it pushed him down, submerging his feet on the ground. Not bad, let's raise the fire power then. He inhales once again and shoots multiple fireballs. He managed to avoid almost all of it, but one was able to graze his sleeve, catching it in fire. He puts it out before it spreads further and stepped away from the former Dragon King. Stop dodging and attack. The adrenaline finally getting to him, making him excited in the inside. The temperature rises around him, and red scales starts to appear on his body, along with a dragon-like gauntlet that covers majority of his left arm, that has 2 green jewels and 10 golden spikes. Dragon booster. It seems you have already reached its third and final form, Tannen said, swinging his clenched fist down on Issei. The latter jumped away, the fist hit the ground and created a small earthquake. I offered half of my body to tap part of this power boost. Issei rose both of his hand, he began to concentrate his demonic power on the left and Drake's blazing inferno of scorching flames on the right. He then combines it together with both of his hands in the air, creating a massive ball of destructive power. Blazing dragon sphere he threw it towards Tannen, whom initially thought can take it head on, but recognized the flames that can incinerate anything, Drake's flames. These flames weren't the ones Issei can control. Tannen quickly flew back a great distance before the attack can hit him and fired his own massive ball of fire. Both attacks clashed together that generated a very destructive explosion, sending both flying. Tannen manages to use his wings to fight against the air blast and flying debris, but Issei was left unscathed. That's enough for today. Issei's mind screams not yet, eager to continue the fight, slowly losing to his battle maniac side and with flames appearing around him. Boost he charged at Tannen using his enhanced speed, his dragonified right hand coated in flames and demonic energy. The former Dragon King waited, ready to counter, but was surprised to see a barrier between him and Issei. The barrier started to crack as Issei thrusts further. Calm down, Issei, Azazel said, using his hypnotism magic. He calms down a little before completely losing consciousness, falling to the ground. Ooh, should have seen this coming. He winced at the sight below him. I could have handled him myself. I know, I just want to see him up close in that state. You can leave him to me. Tannen just nodded his head as reply and flew away. Azazel put Issei's right arm over his shoulder and spreads his wings. Because of how fast they were going, they made it within a few seconds. He laid the red dragon emperor on a simple white bed and called a maid to tend to him. When everything else was taken care of, he called out to Drake as he took a sit beside the bed with his arms crossed. The past host. Yes, a past host of mine is manipulating Issei. Azazel's face brightened in realization. That's right, a fragment of their consciousness is stored inside the boosted gear. To tell you the truth, Issei wasn't the first one to offer a part of his body for power. I forgot his name, but I do remember that he was the third strongest host of the boosted gear. He was blinded by the power and wanted more, then he eventually died because his body couldn't contain it. Now, he's hunting Issei to do what he couldn't, so when Issei went berserk last time, his emotions was used against him. This will make it harder for us to help him then. Do you have any idea how to stop the hunting host? I believe all we can do is to help him grow, the rest is up to him, since he is the only one that can fight him in his mind. I see. Azazel stood up and thanked Drake for the information. The next day, Azazel came back to Issei's temporary place of stay with an ice-cold bucket of water. Rise and shine, Issei. The cold sensation immediately woke him from his slumber. What the hell? He wrapped his arms around himself with his teeth chattering as he yelled at the governor. Ha 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 ha, you should have seen the look on your face. Azazel threw his head back and laughs hysterically. Issei envelops himself in flames to warm up as he jumps out of the bed. Ha ha, laugh all you want. What are you even doing here so early in the morning? By now the governor ceased his laughing. Okay, first of all, it's already 10 in the morning. Second, I'm here to tell you your schedule, then we'll head out to meet with Tannen. Just give me a few minutes. Issei left the room to go to the bathroom with his clothes. After his business there, he went to the small kitchen and toasted some bread. After waiting for what seems like hours to Azazel, Issei came back to his room. Now that I have your attention, your training will last for a minimum of 20 days or more, depending on your progress. You will work on your reflexes and the use of your senses. Since you have perfect vision, you will be using a blindfold. Then Tannen will help you be comfortable with your other half. We'll also work on the use of Drake's original powers. Your balance breaker and your flames. Issei's mouth hung open and his eyes widened in shock. Ugh, that's a lot of work, he complained. Don't complain just because you miss your precious rias and friends. I know that you need this. Azazel did an air quote on the mention of the president and the others while wearing a smug grin. PSK, okay. You're right, I do need this, so let's go already. They left the cottage and went to one of the mountains of the Gremory territory. You're late, the dragon said, smoke puffs out of his snout. Tremendous eye, it won't happen again, Issei bowed respectfully. Azazel then gave Issei a black blindfold, then they started his training. Because of yesterday's incident, Tannen didn't show any mercy and ruthlessly trained him for the rest of the day, with little amount of time for breaks. Chapter 7. Rating game. Hyoudou Issei has been training for a week now, while Rias and her peerage went on with their days as they continue to wait for him. Asia manages to take in what devils do and other necessary information that she needs to know. This particular morning, Kaneko and Asia walk towards the old school building with Kiba walking behind them. Looks like you're all here, President Rias said, motioning for them to take a seat. Milady, should I talk to them? Grafia asked. She shook her head no and straightened up. The truth is, she started to say, but she stopped when a magic circle appeared and flames erupted. Then came a tall blonde man who seems to be in his early 20s, wearing a white dress shirt, burgundy blazer with gold embroidery with matching pants and black dress shoes. I haven't been to the human realm in a while. Rias, my love. I have come for you. This is Riser Phoenix Sama, a pure-blooded upper-class demon. He is also the fiancé of the Grimory family's heiress apparent, this is to say that he is engaged to Lady Rias, Grafia introduced. Kiba, Asia and Kaneko moved away from the couch to give way to Riser, while Akeno served him tea. My, Rias queen prepares quite delicious tea. Thank you for the compliment. Akeno slightly bowed and stood with the others. Come sit and drink with me, Rias. She was about to decline when she thought of this as an opportunity to have a talk with him and not to appear rude. She sat with him, making a fair distance between them much to Riser's dismay. Riser, haven't I told you before? I'm not going to marry you. But Rias, I thought your family was with its back to the wall, so you're in no position to be this selfish. I don't intend to bring my family down, she shot back, ready to stand, but a hand wrapped around her waist stopped her. The entire demon world struggles to preserve the lineages of pure-blooded demons. Our fathers arranged this marriage for the common good, his right arm still around her, while the other caresses her exposed thigh. Cut it out, Rias successfully pushed him away. This is the last time, I'm not going to say again. I'm not going to marry you, my father, elder brother, and other family members are all rushing too much. I am going to marry someone I want to be with. You know, I am the face of the Phoenix family, and I cannot have you sully my honor. He forcefully grabbed her chin, his thumb gently strokes the side of her lips. I'll take you back to the underworld, even if it means burning all your servants to death. His eyes glowed a golden color, Ria's eyes were the same, except it was red. Please calm down, Milady, Riser Sama. As I am here on Surzich's Sama's orders, I do not intend to stand idly by. Riser let her go and took a step back. But it's you, the mightiest queen, saying that. Even I can't help but be scared. Surzich's Sama predicted this might happen, as such, I have been charged to carry out a last resort measure if no agreement is reached. What do you mean, Grafia? Milady, if you insist on your position, you can settle the issue with Riser Sama through a rating game. Ria's peerage tensed at the mention of the rating game. The game that resembles chess, where upper-class demons fight using their servants, their powers are likened to chess pieces. I've played the game many times and won several times as well. You're not even a qualified player. Let alone have any experience, he chuckled. Rias, just to be sure, are these all your servants? What if they are? She lied through her teeth. Riser didn't seem to notice, he snapped his fingers, summoning his servants. I have 15, a full set of pieces. Doesn't this tell you something? If we're to have a rating game, you lose. He called his queen and decided that it was a good time to make out with her, making Rias more disgusted and wanted to run out the door. She glared at him, determined to break off the engagement. He cut short their intimate moment together and faced Rias again. I don't think anyone in your peerage stands a chance against my queen or anyone in particular. He was feeling smug with his comment. Rias and the others clearly felt offended and made their way beside the former, hell-bent on proving the Phoenix wrong, for mocking their king and themselves. Alright. Rias sensed their strength of will and agreed, I swear I'll blast you away. I'd like to see you try, looking forward to it. Rias, my love, he had the nerve to wink and send her a flying kiss before leaving with his peerage. Given the differences between the two groups, Rias was offered 10 days to prepare for the rating game. In terms of number, they're distinctly outshined. They immediately left the next day, staying at the Grimory household in the underworld. Where's Issei staying? Asia asked the president. I'm not sure, even though I wanted to see him as well, we are forbidden, words from Ani-sama. Hearing those words saddened the group, to take their mind off of the topic, Rias decided to start training. When it was lunchtime, all of them sat around the table with delicious food in front of them that was prepared by Akeno and Asia. I did Akamasu. As they quietly ate their food, Asia broke the silence. But you? Yes, Asia. Are we going to tell Issei-san? They all looked up from their food and turned to their president. There was a moment of silence before she answered. I'm afraid we can't do that, she said with a heavy sigh. They all looked confused. Given Issei's situation, he is going through something we are not allowed to interfere with. An internal battle only meant for him. After their training for the day, Rias and her peerage retired for the night, and only 2 figures are still awake. In the large room, there sat a crimson-haired upper-class demon with his wife besides him on their bed. Both in their nightwear. Their chances are pretty much non-existent. He is part of a family that shares their name with a sacred beast. His quick regeneration ability plays a big part in his battle against Rias. He stated, "You knew that, but you still." She trailed off. "I merely gave her a choice, it's her decision." He booped her nose, then kissed her right cheek. "Don't worry too much, you and I both know that little Ria won't go down without a fight." She silently nodded her head and tugged on his sleeves. "Let's sleep," she said. "As you wish, my queen." Rias and her peerage quietly sat together as they mentally prepare themselves for the upcoming raiding game tonight. Then they heard a familiar voice. "Excuse us," the student council president said with the vice president behind her. "Good evening, Sona." Asia gave Rias a questioning look. Since the raiding games are broadcasted to members of both families, they are responsible for it. "I volunteered for the task, it is your first raiding game after all. Then I'll show you a fight that won't insult our rivalry." Right after the crimson-haired said that a magic circle suddenly appeared. "Everyone, are you prepared?" Graphia asked. "Yes, anytime." Graphia told them that if the battle is about to start, they will be teleported to the battlefield. An alternate space created just for the game. "I will be going back to the student council room to manage the broadcast. I wish you the best of luck, Rias." "Thank you, but make the broadcast fair, okay?" "Of course, but I do not expect an even match against him, so be careful," Sona said as they started walking towards the door. Rias nodded and thanked her again. Another magic circle appeared, indicating that it is time for the game to start. They all went in. When the light died down, it looked like the teleportation fail, but they actually made it to an alternate space that is a replica. "I am Graphia, servant of the Gremory family, appointed judge between the Gremory and Phoenix families. Taking Lady Rias and Riser Sama's opinions, a school Milady attends in the human world is chosen as the battlefield." Her voice echoes everywhere. "When you look outside, the sky looks different." Lady Ria's main base is the occult research club room in the old school building, while Riser Sama's main base is the principal's office in the new schoolhouse. Thus, pawns can be promoted when they manage to invade the enemy's base. There was a pause for a moment before her last announcement. "The game begins now." Rias each gave them a transceiver for easy communication and began briefing them with a plan. "I expect a few of their nimble rooks and knights to be placed around this clubhouse," she said, pointing to a particular club on the school map. "We'll take the gym first, which is near both the old and new schoolhouse. It's pretty close to our base and would help keep the enemies in check. First, we need to secure the defensive line." They all nodded in understanding. "Hyoudou, Kaneko, go set up traps in the forest. Akeno, once the traps are set, use illusionary magic on the forest and sky above it. Asia, your recovery and support, so stand by with me here." "Roger." Akeno and Kaneko summoned their familiars and did what they were said to do. Once they were done, they called Rias and started their game plan. "Lady Rias has begun her move," Graphia said. "Kaneko, I know that once you enter the gym, you won't be able to avoid a battle, but I just want you to immobilize them, then leave." "Understood," Kaneko responded. "Hyoudou, are you ready? After you finish off with the enemies that falls into our trap, I want you to save your energy as much as possible." "Got it." And lastly, she called for Akeno. "Akeno, please be ready and wait for the right moment." "Yes, but you." "Now, commence operation." Kaneko sneaked into the gym but was immediately spotted. "I know you're here, Gremory servant, there is no use hiding. I am Shulin," a Ruka girl with bun on her head said, followed by a blue-haired holding a stick. "I'm Mira, a pawn." The pair of twins that are pawns named Nell and Tu came last. Riser's Rook named Shulin challenged her. "Fine by me." Kaneko got into a fighting stance, while the others stand by. 3 pawns and a knight of Riser are attempting infiltration. Their surroundings began to get foggy. Traps from every direction starts to fire at them. Traps. This is child's play. What they didn't know is that they are being lured somewhere else. "We're here," a pawn said, then the illusion started to fade. "You can't get out of here anymore, you're inside a barrier that our queen created," Tiba stated, slowly walking towards them with a sword in hand. "Damn it, we didn't notice." "No matter, he can't possibly take us all on his own." "Then boy, that's where they're wrong." Back to Kaneko and her side of the battle, Shulin attacks her with either her hands or feet coated with flames. Kaneko manages to avoid getting critical hits but was still left with scrapes. The kick caught her off guard and tore apart of her uniform. This time, she's done playing on the defense and sends out attacks of her own. She continuously sends barrages of punches, not letting Shulin have any time to retaliate. She stopped for a moment before swinging a powerful roundhouse kick, sending Shulin crashing to the wall. Shulin the Rook was barely conscious. "We'll rip you apart." The twins raises their chainsaws in the air. She dodges every strike coming her way, swiftly sweeping Nell off of her feet. The other twin was almost shredded by Nell's chainsaw, making her stumble. Kaneko then strikes the pressure points on their body, preventing them from moving. The only one left is the blue-haired pawn, who's glaring at her. She thrusts her stick multiple times but was unable to land a hit. "Let's get this over with." Kaneko kicks the weapon away and delivered a solid punch, making the girl fall on her knees. Kaneko contacted the president and ran out the door. When she was a few meters away from the gym, it exploded. Credits to Akeno, who is in her Maiko attire, floating high in the air. Riser Sama's 3 pawns and a rook, retired. Rafia said, they are still outnumbered, even with Ria's bold decision to blow up a strategic location. Kaneko then quickly made her way to the track field, where her and Kiba are to meet, while Akeno hides somewhere nearby. Speaking of the blonde knight, he successfully defeated his opponents. Riser Sama's 3 pawns and a knight, retired. Ria smiled in satisfaction, all going according to her plan. The two took a rest first inside a storage room before going out again to continue the plan. Just as what the president predicted, Riser's remaining pieces came out to deal with them, except for the queen. 2 pawn, 2 bishop, a knight and a rook, faces Kaneko and Kiba. I'm Riser Sama's knight, Carlemagne. And I am Ria Sama's knight, Kiba Hyoudou. I look forward to crossing swords with another knight. He bowed gracefully. Well said, Ria Sama's knight. Both lunge for each other. Just when I thought I found a cutie, it turns out he's another sword freak, a blonde girl with blue eyes. That looks like Riser thought, as she watches the two knights fight. Riser's rook was about to engage herself with Kaneko when both of them were blown away. Kaneko, what happened to her, Hyoudou? Rias began to panic when she heard the explosion. Riser's queen made an appearance was what he said as he kicks Carlemagne away. Take the bomb, queen said. Biba rushed to Kaneko's side. I wish I could have been of more help to the president. She then disappeared along with the other rook. Lady Rias and Riser Sama's rook, retired. Biba felt the anger rising in him. Biba-kun, he looked up and saw Akeno. I'll deal with her, so hurry along. I will avenge Kaneko-chan with all my might, she said while emitting a powerful aura. Biba nodded his head and left to deal with the others. I wanted to fight you someday, priestess of thunder. Oh my, I am quite honored, bomb queen-san. But the abrupt appearance of Riser's queen, there was a change in Ria's plan. It's time, Asia, she plans to launch a surprise attack on Riser's main base. They sneaked inside the new schoolhouse and was greeted by Riser, both deciding to take their battle on the roof. It's too early to go for a direct attack, a virgin like you shouldn't underestimate my experience, Rias. How vulgar. Let me have some fun, I want to enjoy this foreplay. He sends a fire-based attack in the shape of a spear. Rias defends herself by countering it with her power of destruction. They both continued exchanging blows with no clear winner. Akeno could have defeated the bomb queen if it weren't for the phoenix tears the latter used, making her recover completely. You are indeed formidable, priestess of thunder, but it's game over. She silently laughs and made her way to her king. Lady Ria's queen, retired. Akeno, focus on our fight, Rias. Riser send her another attack that she was not able to dodge. Asia heals her injuries and even with them gone, she still felt horrible. Biba readies himself for his upcoming and final attack, his whole demeanor seems to change again. I am one of Rias Sama's subordinate, we came here for her sake. Sword birth with all of his remaining power, he gave everything he had to this one attack. He strikes his sword downwards, creating numerous demon swords each with its own attributes and properties, emerging from the surface within 20-meter radius. They were skewered, except for Ravel, Riser's Amato, who managed to fly away. Riser Sama's 2 pawns, a bishop and a knight, retired. Biba smiled victoriously as he fell down on the ground with no strength left in him and passes out. Lady Ria's knight, retired. It's down to 2 against 1, not counting Ravel, since she doesn't want to fight. Ria's is clearly in a disadvantage, if it weren't for those phoenix tears. The tide of the battle would have gone in their favor. Ready to give up, Rias? Giving up is not an option. Don't be ridiculous, you and your pitiful bishop are the only one remaining. I'll handle them myself, Riser Sama. No need, I'll deal with them. I bet she's exhausted and drained of all magic. He attacks them with his hellfire. At first, Rias thought the attack was aimed at her, but much to her surprise when it passes her. Asia, it was too late for her to make a barrier or to even counter it in time, and was left no other choice but to use her body to cover Asia. But it's over. Just when Riser said that, Grafia announces his win. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.